This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. 4 years ago this week, the Army launched its first investigation into allegations of prisoner abuse at Abu Ghraib in Iraq. This investigation by Army Major General Antonio Taguba, along with photos leaked by the media, eventually helped expose the widespread abuse and torture taking place inside the U.S.-run jail. In the 4 years since Taguba began his investigation, not one officer or civilian leader has been held criminally responsible for the abuses. Last month, the U.S. Army threw out the conviction of the only officer court-martialed in the torture scandal. Meanwhile, several soldiers who helped expose the torture have been punished. Today, we spend the hour with Abu Ghraib whistleblower and former Army Sergeant Samuel Provance. From September 2003 to the spring of 2004, Provance ran the top-secret computer network used by military intelligence at Abu Ghraib. He was the first intelligence specialist to speak openly about abuse at the prison and is the only military intelligence soldier listed as a witness in the Taguba report. When Provance defied an order not to speak to the media about what happened at Abu Ghraib, the Army stripped him of his security clearance, demoted him in rank, and threatened him with 10 years in jail. Eventually, Samuel Provance was forced to leave the armed forces. When we spoke to him late last year, Samuel Provance was struggling to find a job and was working as a private security guard at a mall. I began by asking him how he learned of the abuses taking place inside Abu Ghraib.
Well, I was really intrigued by the interrogators, and I was just curious as to exactly what it was like in the day, a day in the life of an interrogator. So I would just ask them, questions. Because my job allowed me to kind of float among the premises, because I was just, for the most part, helping people whenever they had problems after the network had been set up and maintained. So I would just ask questions here and there, from different people, like, exactly what goes on in interrogation, or what kind of people do you interrogate, what are some of the things that go on. Things of that nature, or just being somewhere listening to somebody talking about an interrogation.
Talk about the information you started to gather, the people you started to meet.
Well, first of all, there was the interrogators. Originally, it was just a handful of people. It was the 519th and the 325th, which were half active and half reservists, there was a big difference between Camp Victory, because at Camp Victory everybody was kind of dog eat dog, whereas at Abu Ghraib people were more like family, and it was very people were very bonded, and but it was completely different. And I would ask questions about interrogations and stuff, and the things they started to tell me were alarming. Beginning with the nudity. One girl was an interrogator just out of the schoolhouse, a reservist, 19 years old, and she was telling me about interrogating somebody in the nude. And and I'm thinking, even me as a man would have some reservation about doing something like that, or what if I could do that. But here she is, a 19-year-old girl, interrogating a naked prisoner. And but she talked about it without batting an eye, like it wasn't an issue for her.
Did you challenge her about it?
Well, yeah, I would. There was several times I would try to talk to them about what was going on there ethically, but they would always brush me off, and because I was the computer guy or an analyst, what do you really know? And for me, it was like I don't know, the legality of everything, but just because I'm against it doesn't mean it's illegal.
Sam Provance, can you talk about the difference between the people who were originally there, the MI soldiers, military intelligence, and then those who were brought in from Guantanamo, and how things changed?
There was an incredible difference. The people from Guantanamo Bay came in as the experts, as the fixers. That Abu Ghraib was a problem that they weren't getting enough product from, and the people from Gitmo were there to fix this problem and to show them how it's really done.
Who were these Gitmo soldiers?
Specifically, I really don't know. I just know they were from Gitmo. They let you know they were from Gitmo, and you know, they were very arrogant, and they didn't. You know, there was a big fight between the old school and the new school, and you know, the new school won.
You were trained at Fort Huachuca?
Yes.
Where is that?
That's in Arizona.
And what were you trained to do? What did you understand was proper and what wasn't?
Well, I was trained to be an intelligence analyst, and you know, you're kind of, you get acquainted with the different, you know, the different sources of intelligence, or how they gather, you know, different types of intelligence, whether it's, you know, electronic or human, you know, whatever the case may be. And there's a small section where they actually go into human intelligence, and you know, basically, you know, it's just about, you know, what I was acquainted with was, you know, what was considered like the Rapport system, which is, you know, getting a person to tell their story so that they're not actually resisting, they're cooperating.
You say the Guantanamo people had very different ideas.
Absolutely.
Now, you had Guantanamo soldiers, but you also had an increase in the number of civilian contractors. Who were they? Where were they from? What companies?
Well, they would tell you where they were from or who they worked for, but you really didn't know if they were telling the truth. You know, the whole place was very mysterious, and you didn't, you know, somebody could tell you they were from Khaki or they were from Titan, but you didn't know if they were from actually the other, or if they might have actually been CIA or FBI or any other. And then there was also the prospect of spies.
Spies?
Well, of course. I mean, anytime you're dealing with intelligence, there's always the possibility of there being a spy.
Spy for?
Who knows?
So these guys from Khaki or Titan, or how they identify themselves, were interrogators, translators, linguists?
Right. Some of them were actually foreign. And the one thing I noticed about the majority of the foreign linguists and interpreters were that they hated the Iraqi people.
Can you elaborate?
Well, anytime you just had a conversation with them, they just had no remorse or no sympathy for what was going on in Iraq. And anytime I would bring up, you know, the question of, you know, what was being done to the prisoners, whether it was they're being wrongfully detained because they're completely innocent, or being abused, tortured, maybe even killed, and they just, you know, it was something they didn't care and were glad about, if anything.
So your job was, as you've described it, making accounts for new users, troubleshooting computer problems, backing up the secret shared drive, maintaining secret and top secret network connectivity, manning the top secret part of the Joint Interrogation and Debriefing Center, JIDC. What were you learning? Tell us more about the conversations that you were having, where you were allowed to go in the prison, where you were not allowed to go.
There really wasn't anywhere I couldn't go, but there was a lot of places you just didn't want to go because you didn't want to know what was going on. You know, in the intelligence world, you know, you're really held accountable for the things that you learn. So there's a lot of things you really don't want to know, even if you could know them. One of those was you know, where they were actually holding the detainees that they were actively interrogating, other than people they would pick out from the general population. There was only like the hard site that everybody knows from, you know, the photographs. I actually visited once at the behest of an interrogator who wanted to show me airplanes that they had constructed out of the cardboard from the the MREs, or the meals ready to eat. He was like a UAV scientist that they had deemed, didn't know anything they had wanted through all their interrogating him. So they were getting ready to move him in a general population, but before that, she wanted to take photographs of these airplanes he had made. And so I got to go down there, and and that was the last time I wanted to go down there.
What did you see?
It was just crazy. It was the daytime, and there was an MP on duty. Yelling and screaming at these detainees one minute, and then the next minute going into